Did your bread ever stayed flat, tasted like cardboard, or was just hard as a rock? Or maybe you want to take your bread baking to another level? Then you are at the right place. In this video, I will share with you 10 professional baker's tips to make the perfect bread every time so you will never miss your bread recipe again. All these tips come from my friend Chesky, who is a master baker. Don't forget to stay until the end of the video for a bonus tip that will change your bread making game and will blow your mind. So let's jump into it. Before you start anything, the most important tip will be for you to weigh all your ingredients to make sure that your results will be consistent. Not all flours are created equal, so take some bread flour. It has a higher protein content and it is very finely milled, which will help you yield a lighter, fluffier bread. Let's talk about yeast for a moment, as it is the key for fluffy bread. I like comparing the yeast to a hibernating bear. To make sure the bear is ready to wake up from its slumber, you need to feed it. The same way is true for your yeast. You should feed it to make sure it has energy to work for you. To feed your bear yeast, also known as yeast proofing, add sugar and lukewarm water. Not too hot for the water, as it will kill the yeast. And then let it sit covered for 5 minutes until it bubbles. If you have no bubbles at the surface, then it means that your bear yeast didn't want to wake up from its slumber, and by doing this, by proofing your yeast, you have prevented a whole production of doing bread and having a flat looking bread as a result. Good for you. For your dough consistency, it should not be too dry nor too sticky, because either will not give you a maximum result. So after you have added all the ingredients, if the dough is too sticky, add 1 to 2 teaspoons of flour and knead again for 1 to 2 minutes. And if you still feel it is too sticky, then repeat the process by the same increments. Once you have incorporated all your ingredients, if you want a good bread recipe, of course, please see the link above and the description box below. Do not stop here. Make sure that you knead your dough at least 8 to 10 minutes, even by hand. That will give you a good workout. This will allow for the gluten to develop in the dough and form a soft and stretchy dough. If your dough breaks as soon as you stretch it, you need to knead it more. One important step is to double proof your dough. So after you have mixed all your ingredients and you kneaded everything for 8 to 10 minutes, let your dough rise for a first time about 20 minutes in your mixing bowl or in a covered container. Then after you have done that, knead it again for 2 to 3 minutes, then let it rise for the full hour or so. This will activate the gluten even more and help you reach that perfect consistency. Yeast and air do not like each other. Therefore, when you proof your dough, cover it. Place your dough in an oiled bowl, cover it with an oiled cling wrap, and let it double in size. The reason for this is to create smaller air pockets and a fine crumb, and therefore more light and airy bread. I like a cling wrap and a towel on top. Do not let your dough proof more than an hour or two at room temperature, and the telltale sign that your dough has overproofed is that your dough is completely stuck to the cling wrap. If you see that, chances are that your bread will look more like a pita than a bread. Proof your dough in a warm and humid place. A pro tip is to create a proofing box. You can do that by placing a pan filled with boiling water at the bottom of your cold oven and placing your covered dough on the rack above it and let it proof. After you have let the dough rise, degas your dough. By that, I mean you should knead your dough until you do not feel any bubbles under your fingertips. That will take about 2 to 5 minutes depending on the size of your dough. This will avoid small pockets of gas to pierce through the surface of your bread and create irregularities or even holes during the baking process. Before you shape your dough, especially if you will braid it, you should roll your dough piece by piece with a rolling pin and then form a long strand. This will allow your strand to keep its shape and will give you a much better result. And if you want to have more ideas on how to braid and shape your challah, you can watch next the video in the card above, and the link will be in the description box below. Our final tip will be in regard to the baking. Do not open the oven door for the first 20 minutes of baking. This will deflate for sure your bread if you do that. Here is our bonus tip. The bonus tip for you to have extra light and fluffy bread is to add to your ingredients up to a tablespoon of vinegar for your recipe to create smaller air bubbles in your bread and to make it lighter. I hope that this video was useful for you, and let me know in the comments below which of these tips was a revelation for you. And don't forget, if you like this kind of content all about simplifying the Jewish life, please consider subscribing. We do upload new content every week. Until next time, stay safe, stay blessed, and don't forget to from it up.
Start all over, man. Soap and water. All of them have to be done in soap and water. Soap and water.